Are you ready to organize your amazing ideas into a powerful book? It's time to write your book. Welcome to The Right Hour, nonfiction tips from the right coach with Joyce Glass, where you can learn the business and craft of writing.
Welcome to episode 503 of The Right Hour. This week, we're going to dig a little deeper into your heart and mindset. Most writers struggle with self-doubt, fear, and confidence, even experienced and successful writers and creatives. I met today's guest in a business group on Facebook, and I've watched him speak live and follow his thought-provoking post. He will help you face your doubt and fears in a different light, and I know that you'll find him truly interesting. Omar Raafat was born in London and Egyptian bred. He's a surgeon turned hypnotist, and there's a story there. Fascinated with the human mind and human behavior. He is a coach, trainer of NLP and hypnosis, a TEDx speaker, and advocate of mental health and well-being. Having faced and overcome his own anger, fears, and limiting beliefs, mainly around rejection, he now spends his time between working privately with service-based entrepreneurs taking care of their mind so they can take care of their business. Speaking on anxiety and mental well-being and training courses between the UK and Egypt. He is on a mission to give people the tools and knowledge to reconnect to who they truly are by harnessing the power of their mind to break out of fear, anxiety, and resistance to achieve emotional mastery in order to get health, wealth, and lifestyle they have been holding them back on. So what's holding you back from writing your book and creating the lifestyle you want? Or what about finishing your book or publishing your book? Do you have a book you're finished, but maybe you haven't published yet? Listen carefully as Omar shares some tips to help you gain confidence in your gifts and talents. Hi, it's great to be today with Omar Raafat. Is that how you say your last name?
Well done. Yeah, very good.
Good. I did well. I did not know I was that close.
Hi, Joyce. Nice to be here. Thank you. That was perfectly pronounced.
Awesome. Well, I guess my learning my phonetics really helped out in kindergarten. So, but I'm glad to have you here, Omar. Omar and I are in a group together, and we have had little chats here and there about things. And I love his outlook on confidence and helping people. And I thought this would be a great topic for writers today. So, thank you for being here. And I want us
Thank you.
to hear a little bit about your journey because I don't know all of it and I'm sure it's interesting. But just tell us a little bit about how did you go from being a surgeon to what I call the mindset master or you call the hypnotist. So, whichever way you want to put it, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So, I mean, I get asked about it all the time. Usually, when you say to someone, "Oh, I used to be a surgeon," the fact that you said "I used to," they sort of raise an eyebrow and think, "Hold on a minute, what? What? Why did you change?" And then you say, oh, "I'm a hypnotist now," and then that really sort of destroys them because they don't know what to think. But the way that it happened really was I saw it as a natural progression. So I was in the healthcare world. I was working as a head and neck surgeon, which is a joint specialty between medicine and dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically deals with trauma and cancer. And through a lot of the patients that I was seeing, just the way that they were being managed, the way that we were sort of focusing on symptoms rather than focusing on the whole person, just didn't sit right with me. It wasn't the way that I thought, it wasn't what I believed in. And I just did not believe in that status quo. So being, I suppose, the rebel I am, I had to challenge it. And yeah, I did just that. I started researching, started reading, understanding more about the mind and how it can completely transform everything. And I then had my first experience of NLP and hypnosis myself. And once that happened, Joyce, Pandora's box was open. That was it. I could not go back to what I was doing before. And I decided that I was going to go out on my own and start helping people to improve their lives, to better their lives using mindset and emotional mastery, because in essence, that's what I found it all comes down to. Once you master your emotions and you master your mindset, you can achieve absolutely anything.
Definitely. I agree. It does take both to get you there. And as I said before, many writers struggle with that because there's this little inner demon that a lot of times going, "You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Who's going to listen to you?" That kind of thing. I am curious though. Tell me a little bit more about your experience. You said that kind of opened the Pandora's box. What was there anything specific, or was it just kind of the whole thing, or what really happened there?
So for me, I think being conditioned initially as a surgeon, you have this sense of superiority, if you like, where you are trained to think that you are Superman, and it has both its pros and its cons. And
Mm,
the pros obviously are is that you want to look out for your patients, you want to help and fix everyone. But then I adopted this mentality in every aspect of my life. I was always the person who wanted to help and fix everyone, but I would never let anyone in. I would never ever acknowledge or admit that something was going on inside of me. And to many people, they would see this as arrogance. But I think that if I'm going to be completely honest about it, it was pure fear.
mm,
It was fear of facing my inner demons. It was fear of, what if I'm not good enough? What if, I don't deserve all the normal things that
right.
a lot of people really struggle with, as you said, the writers themselves. And so I think the three biggest aspects that I worked on when I started learning about neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis, which are the tools that I use. So the three biggest aspects that I worked on was anger. I had a lot of suppressed anger.
Hmm.
I was never an angry person, but I just had this internal rage, so that was the first thing. The second thing was a fear of judgment. I was always conscious of putting myself out there, or playing too big, because people would say, or I thought in myself that people would think, well, what makes you say this, or how are you so knowledgeable to talk about this? So there was this fear of judgment which kept me playing small for a long, long time. And there was also, and this was quite a big one as well, a fear of being rejected,
Hmm.
because and we spoke about this earlier. So as you're aware, with the whole personality typing thing that we're doing, what I believe is when you are your true self, as it were, then you can make magical things happen. But it's very difficult to say that because we're conditioned to wear so many masks. Now, my true self, as it was, is very in your face, is very passionate, is very intense, and will call bullshit when I see it. But I always thought, or I was trained and conditioned to believe that that would be too much for a lot of people, and that people would reject me or not accept me by me being who I truly was. And
Right.
so for me, that was really the biggest thing that I worked on.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's definitely something we all have to work through. Is we have what I call our superpowers too, that are magical when we can help someone else with them. But not always do we feel comfortable sharing them with them, because I mean, I've had that happen before. There's some things I'm really good at, but that doesn't mean everybody wants to know, you know, or everybody wants to hear it. I mean, they got to be in a place of acceptance. And if I just go charging in and go, "Hey, you need to do this," you know, depending on the person, they may or may not like that, and I have had some people kind of go like, "Okay," like just absolutely, I don't know if terrified's the word, but intimidated maybe would be the word. And I can be the same way. I can come on too strong, and it's not because I think I'm better. I'm passionate, and I'm raring to go, and if I see something, oh, I can help you, well, not everybody wants to learn that. So, with maturity, I've learned to, okay, let's see if they're ready for this, if they want to hear this, or ask, hey, would you be interested in knowing how you that I can help you with that, or what you can do, whatever, instead of charging in with guns blazing, going, I can help.
So you're much wiser than I am, Joyce, because I still do not have that tact, as it were. Or, if I see someone that I can help, and because I'm so passionate about it, then I'm going to want to jump in and help. And as you say, it can come across really strong at times. It puts some people off, but at the end of the day, I think you've just got to do you. You've just got to be
Right.
you, and that's all you can bring to the table. Especially if like yourself, you're in a creative field and you work with creatives. I think, if you're not going to be yourself in a creative space, then when can you be yourself?
Exactly. Exactly. You've got to learn how to do that. Well, so my first question, because like we said, a lot of writers have this problem with confidence. Why do you think so many of us do struggle with confidence, especially in the writing world? They could be at the top of their field, whatever it may be, but still struggle to think that they can write. Or even if they're not at the top, but they may have more experience than someone else, what is our confidence issue coming from?
So that is a great question. And my view on confidence is that we just look at confidence the wrong way. Uh, a lot of people are always seeking to have more confidence as if it's this elusive thing that you must have in order to achieve something.
Hmm.
When the reality is, if we look back on, whether it be myself or you or your listeners, if anyone is to look back on things that they've achieved in their life, you'll realize that you'll have achieved really amazing things when you did not feel confident at all in the moment.
Right.
Because we look at confidence as this magic pill we need to before we do something, when reality is that we only get confident from doing. So the
Exactly.
confidence comes from doing something. And here is the key, and this is where I think most people get paralyzed. It comes from the doing because you must make mistakes.
Right.
And a lot of people do not like to make mistakes
Hmm.
because they have told themselves, or other people have told them, that making a mistake is bad, or that you are defined by your mistakes. But once again, that is not real. If we live in a world where we are defined by our mistakes, then of course, we'll never achieve anything because we'll constantly be fearful of making that mistake. However, you know, we need to start adopting this idea of it's okay to make mistakes, because
Right.
that's how I'm going to grow. That's how I'm going to, get confident. You don't write your bestseller or as soon as you pick up a pen and paper. Like, you have to make a lot of mistakes along the
Yes.
way to start
Yes.
getting confident. you know and so the same is true of anything. When it comes to confidence, it's just shifting our perspective on it. Rather than saying, okay, I can't do this until I'm confident, saying, okay, do you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a mistake and be okay with it, because that will then give me the confidence to do better next time.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of my view on
Yeah.
confidence.
And I get that, because when I first started out working with people, coaching them on their books, I did not have the same amount of confidence then as I do now, because I've been doing this for 3 years and I have seen the results that people have had. All I had at first was my own experience of what I had done as a writer and how it had worked for me and my process. And I didn't have, anybody else who I'd worked with yet. And the more I work with people, the more confidence I gain every time. And, and if they're even a little more challenging, that makes it even more fun for me, because it's like, okay, let's see how I can help this one, you know? And so that I see that it's so true. And the same thing even with writing. I started off blogging in 2010. and when I felt the call to write. And I didn't know squat from diddly about websites and writing and anything, and I started just absorbing all the information and going to conferences and watching what other people were doing. I watched a lot of different what I call influencers in the writing arena to see what they were doing and how they did things and which ones I liked to emulate in a good way. But the more I wrote on my blog and the more discerning I became, the more my confidence grew as a writer too. And the more you have people going, "Oh, that touched me," or "That I really resonated with that," or "Thank you for that." When you touch someone's life, that your confidence just goes through the roof. So most of my writers are writing to help people in one form of another, whether it's high performance coaching or spiritually or just sharing hurts, sharing stories. One of my books that you can see back here says Just See Me. It's about stories about families with dementia patients and how their lives change with dementia. Um, Writing those stories really was impactful in a way of seeing how, you know, I need to treasure people as they are, not as I think they should be, not as what I'd hope they would be, but what they are right now. So that was wonderful, experience doing that. So that's been the joy of each client has brought different things to the table that I've learned from too. And then they start to their confidence grows as well because then they start to write better using techniques that I teach them. And that's always fun too to watch them because like the lady with the stories, her first story was horrible compared to the last story she wrote because she had grown learning through each story. And so her confidence grew too. And that's always fun. I love helping my clients and watching them grow. So definitely
Absolutely.
confidence is key. So another one that many of us in many professions, but especially in the writers profession, how do we overcome fear and doubt? Can we overcome it, or is it just something we have to live with?
So you can absolutely overcome it, and there's several ways. I just wanted to add one thing just to the confidence thing because it kind
Okay.
of just came to me, and this was something that one of my mentors kind of said on a course that I did with him, and it really stuck with me. And he said, the first time that you do anything will be the worst that you will ever be at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true.
Right.
And it's so true. The first time you do anything, that is the worst you will ever be at it. So when you're thinking, oh, I need to be confident in order to write this straight up or to do whatever it is you want to do, you need to shift your perspective into thinking, if this is your first time, then just accept that it's going to be your worst time. If it is not your first time, accept that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
So yeah, that's on that point. So back to the fear. So you said fear and doubt.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes, you can absolutely overcome fear and doubt. Now, we need to first sort of define or understand fear, because fear, like any other emotion, is a very natural emotion. They are healthy. All our emotions are healthy. They are naturally occurring, and we need to experience them. They serve a purpose. They help us. So fear serves a purpose of protecting us, right?
Right.
However, we have also conditioned ourselves through our environment, through life, to be fearful of things which are not real, or fearful of things that actually pose no threat or danger to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first thing you need to do when it comes to fear, doubt, worry, is you need to establish and define, what are you fearful of? The reason I say that is because a lot of people, they sort of see it as an easy way out, and they'll just say, "Oh, I'm afraid of the unknown." Yeah? Very common excuse I hear from entrepreneurs or creatives or many people is, I'm afraid of doing this because I'm afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid of what might happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we say, does this happen at all first in the writer's world? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, definitely. Because, and just like one lady I'm working with right now is sharing a personal story that's very deeply, ingrained in her and traumatic. And there's always this fear of, am I sharing right? Am I sharing too much? Is this the best way to share it? And she's kind of going through that right now. And
Mm,
so, I have to be part therapist, sometimes helping people share their stories because it is powerful and it can help someone else. But you've
mm.
got to be able to be exposed, enough to share it and vulnerable enough. And that can be a scary thing because,
Yes.
how is my family going to react? How are my friends going to react that may or may not know this happened to me? That's always another fear that comes up.
But then, so that's exactly the point. So that's what I mean, that you need to then determine, what is the fear actually about? Am I afraid of taking this action because of, if I do this, then certain people may look at me differently? Or if I do this, then my family might respond to me differently, or they may even disown me, which is a bit extreme, but it can happen. So the point is, when you define the fear, then you set it into you set boundaries to it. And
Mhm.
as long as you have boundaries to anything, then you can begin to work on eliminating it. Now, the way that you work on eliminating it is, so let's say this lady, for example, let's take her that you're working with. So she is afraid of sharing her story because she does not know, or is fearful of how people will perceive her or how they will respond to her. Yeah. So a question that I would ask her, or I would explore with her, is, what is the worst case scenario,
Right.
right? Because as humans, we always tend to go to the worst case scenario anyway. So just
Mhm.
let's ask ourselves, what is the absolute worst case scenario of this thing that I have defined that I am fearful of?
Mhm.
And then when you have determined for you whatever the worst case scenario is, ask yourself, is this outcome, if it were to happen, is it something that I can live with, yes or no?
Right.
If the answer is no, then fine. Don't do whatever it is you're fearful of, and just, change your whole strategy, your whole line of work, whatever you're working towards. If the answer is you cannot deal with it, which hardly ever happens, right? If yet you decide that you can do it, so you've asked yourself, what is the worst that can happen? Okay, can I deal with this? Yes. Then you ask yourself, okay, what is the best possible outcome?
Right.
We hardly ever tend to do that. We hardly ever
Mhm.
tend to compare the two and yet focus on the better one. So, worst case scenario, this might happen. Okay, I can handle that. That's fine. So, what's the best case scenario? So, I can look forward to that best case scenario happening. So, I can put myself in that positive, uplifting state so that I can then achieve that positive thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. And that is actually a question I ask during my discovery calls with people. Is, I'm asking a series of questions. What do they want? When do they want this book done? Why do they want to write this book? And one of the questions is, what would be the best part about having your book written and you're helping people overcome XYZ, whatever it is they say. And that kind of stops them in their tracks a lot of times, like, wow, I hadn't thought about that. But the best part would be, and a lot of times is fulfillment, that a lot of people feel strongly that they need to write, but they don't feel confident enough that they can write the book themselves. And so there's this inner turmoil of, I want to, but I don't know how to. And that's where Joyce comes in. And so, um, you know, it is interesting, and many times after my discovery calls, because one of the questions I get to is, so what has been the most valuable thing for you so far? And many of them will say, I haven't talked this out. I didn't realize um, how important this was to me or what was stopping me, and so that that's the fun part about doing those calls is letting people figure out where they're at, where they really want to go, and what's stopping them, because that's another question I ask, what's stopping you? And
Hmm. Hmm.
they answer, and for the first, some of them for the first time, they're thinking about it in those terms. It's like they know, but they don't really discuss it with themselves. they, they just keep avoiding it. I'll get to it eventually when the kids are older or when life is settled or when my mom's healthy or whatever.
Hmm.
And so that's always fun. But yeah, thinking about it from the terms of what could be the best thing about this, that's a excellent way to think about that, and a way to would you consider that is getting you on the path to overcoming fear when you start thinking about it, that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then the next thing you do is, so you've acknowledged that you can deal with whatever the worst is. You're excited about what the best outcome is. You then start implementing baby steps towards that best possible outcome.
Mhm.
Because once you have that clarity, once you have the understanding of, yeah, this is the best possible outcome, and this is what I want, then you have a framework to move towards something.
Right.
Because when we're moving towards something, when something excites us, it creates momentum, it creates a push and a drive, and it helps us to achieve that thing. It's a much stronger push than if we're moving away from something that we don't want, right?
Mhm.
And that's why I always say it's important to focus on the things we want, because if you focus on it, then you will be attracted towards moving in that
Right.
direction to achieve it. And take baby steps to start with. I know that for a lot of people, and I am very guilty of this, I always want to sort of hit the ground running with whatever I do. I just want to hit the ground sprinting. We want that quick instant sort of gratification. We want to achieve things quickly. We want to grow things quickly. And the reality is that there is a time and place for taking big jumps, big steps, big action, but there is also a time and place for taking baby steps, because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's all progress. And as
Mhm.
long as you're moving, as long as you're taking steps, you're taking action, then it's progress. That's fine.
Exactly. One of my clients who just finished up her book a couple months ago said, it took us a little over a year to finish her book, which she was not expecting it to take that long. But she was glad she did, because when she got to the final chapter, it was from a totally different perspective because she had grown in that year. She was dealing with a divorce, and she had betrayed in the marriage, and so she was dealing with a lot of emotions and anger, and that's what she was writing about. And she, at the end, then can write from a place of, I'm not perfect, and I'm not. And I know I'm in a much better place than I was, and I'm able to
Mhm.
see this through a different lens than I was a year ago. And so, time, and when you're talking about that, um, I think one of your things I commented on about struggle, about people don't think they should struggle. Was that one of your things that we had talked about? I think. Um,
Possibly. Talk about
well, I
struggle
think
a
it may have
lot.
been the confidence issue. Yeah, you and I both. We probably talk so much and and read so much. It's like, was it you or was it you? I don't remember. But anyways, the whole point is it's very similar to what you're saying. If it wasn't you, um, was we have to go through those struggles to then become better and
Mm,
experience life in a different way. And the struggles
mm,
aren't meant to destroy us; they're meant to bring us to a better place and
mm,
to
mm,
do
mm.
things
Yes.
differently. And I always think about the butterfly, and most people know this. Some people hadn't heard this, and it's been a few years since I heard it. But if you cut a butterfly out of the cocoon, it won't fly because it didn't struggle to get out of the cocoon.
Mm,
And that's to me a beautiful image of how we're created to be able to go through that struggle, and then that struggle is what helps make us stronger, which helps makes
Mhm.
our writing better. If you struggle with writing, if you think, oh my goodness, there's just no way I can do it, it's like anything else. If you practice, put effort into it, and try and learn some techniques that will help you make your writing something people can't put down, then you can learn that. But there's always going to
Mhm.
be a struggle to get there. And even though it's a natural gift of mine, it's something I have struggled with too, because you want those words to be empowering. You want them to be draw people in. You don't want, I mean, anybody could vomit words on a page, but that doesn't mean that they're going to make sense and they're going to help people. You know, you have to finesse them and make them beautiful. And that's part of what the gift I've been given, is being able to help finesse people's words into a way that is much more interesting than just Sally went down the road and she had
Mhm.
a flat tire and da 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 da. You know, we could all write that story, you know, dot 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 dot. But when you can tell a story in a powerful way, you know, any speaker or book that you've written, I mean, listened to or read, and it draws you in and you don't want to put it down, that person has taken the time to learn how to do their craft well, because they've learned how to draw you in and keep you turning the page. And it's like anything else, whether you're doing sports or a surgeon or, you know, hypnotist, anything that you want to do, if you take the time to learn to do the craft, and there's going to be a struggle to get there, then it's much better in the end than, like you said, than at the beginning. You know, and you constantly keep learning, constantly keep getting better. Um, as Omar knows, and for my listeners, I was at a writers conference last week, and one of the ladies has written 50 something novels. And we had someone come in and do a workshop on the last day, and she's in there voraciously taking notes. The woman's a success. Why does she need to take notes? Because she wants to be even better. You know, that's what we all need to be doing, is continually striving for better. And that doesn't mean there's perfection. Excellence and perfection are two different things. Hey, listener, I wanted to thank you today for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to this podcast, and I have a little something special for you. It is my passion to guide writers on the journey of becoming a published author. Is that your dream? If you are stressed and overwhelmed, or maybe discouraged with your lack of progress on your book, then check out the 4 steps writing plan packed with all the juicy details I teach my private clients at thewritecoach.biz. You'll find the link in the description of this podcast. One happy listener, Veronica Hollingsworth, says, if you are contemplating writing a book, run, don't walk to check out Joyce's awesome podcast and email list resources. I'm a
So
I'm a recovering
perfection.
perfectionist.
There are many, many, many perfectionists. I mean, I work with a great deal of perfectionists, and the thing is, even though you probably know, your listeners know, people who are perfectionists, they know there is no such thing as perfection. People still are obsessed with this idea of perfection, and that if something is not perfect, then they will not let it go. They will not publish it. They will not. However, that we should strive for greatness. We should strive for excellence. We should constantly be developing ourselves. I believe that the moment as humans we stop um, developing, growing, bettering ourselves is the moment that we truly die. That is the moment that we transition, when we stop progress in terms of developing and working on ourselves. However, we should always strive for excellence. Perfection just simply does not exist. If anything, unfortunately, perfection can sometimes lead to stagnation and moving backwards, because people once again become so paralyzed by this idea of something is not perfect that they start to move backwards.
Right.
And we've got to be honest, right? So life happens to all of us. We all experience life And there's good days, there's bad days, there's ugly days. It's all a part of who we are, and it crafts our story, as it were, right?
Right.
But I do believe that every single thing that we experience, and this may trigger some people, but I do believe it, right? And so every single thing that we experience, I believe that we experience for a reason, and that reason is to gain and learn something from it
Mm-hmm.
that will make us stronger as we move forward, that will equip us to create a better, more beautiful life if we learn the lessons we need to learn from it.
Right. Right. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Beth Moore. She teaches Bible studies here in the States, and she, as a child, was molested by a relative. She's never said which one, but through her indications, it was not her father, but it was someone in the family. And she said she came to a point when she was helping women who have been through similar things one time. She says, I remember thinking I would never want to go through that again, and I would never wish it on anybody. But in a small, strange way, she was thankful for it so she could help these women now. And that's this, same thing. It's no matter how horrific the whatever it is you've been through. And it there's a reason. And
There is a reason.
it's powerful. And I
It
don't
is
know.
powerful.
Omar's over here. He can see me. I'm tearing up for those who can't see me.
let,
I'm
let, let me take this over for you. Yeah, so you can have your moment. But yes,
okay.
it is powerful. It is powerful. And so for me, the biggest eye opener when I started working one to one. So my work, what I enjoy is one to one and group trainings, right? And one to one with business owners and entrepreneurs. That's kind of what I do, because the reason is I believe they have an impact, and related to what we said before, if I can impact them to get over their stuff, then they can impact more people, so on and so forth. Anyway, for me, the biggest sort of slap on the face eye opener when I started working one to ones was the number of both men and women, but more so women, to be fair,
Hmm.
that have experienced rape, have been molested, have been, physically abused, have been in those sorts of relationships. And I have full respect for them, because, you know, that they have experienced all these things, but they are still here, you know.
Right.
They are still doing what they do, and they are still magical people. And I'm sure that, there's probably quite a population of your listeners who have experienced whatever traumas and hardships they have experienced.
Hmm.
But the key to remember is that, you're still here. You're still kicking, laughing, fighting, screaming. And that means that you are more powerful than you may be giving yourself credit for. Right?
Exactly.
And a question that a lot of people tend to ask, and I find it really strange, is they'll say, well, if you were to go back in time, what would you do differently? What would you change? And the reality is, I would not change anything. And I don't think anyone should change anything, even if they've experienced, really dark times. And it might be rich, coming from me, an outside viewer who hasn't experienced it. But I truly believe, you've been through what you've been through to give you the power, to give you the tools, to give you that knowledge and understanding to go on and help other people to either get through it themselves, to avoid those situations, whatever it may be. You have experienced what you've experienced, and that has made you the beautiful person that you are today. That you
Right.
are today. It has given you your flavor. It has given you your characteristics. It's given you you. So
Right. Well, and
that's
I've
my
thought
view.
about that too, because there's things that I've been through in my life, and I thought, would I really want to change them? Because then would I really be me? Because the me that I am today is because of the struggles I've been through, and I think I have a more compassionate heart than if everything had just been peachy keen. if
Yeah, and nothing ever is all peachy, is it?
no, no, and that's the thing. My hardship is probably nothing compared to some other people's hardship. And some other people's hardship could be nothing to your hardship. It just depends on our viewpoint of what we've been through. And we've all been
Exactly.
through something. And
Exactly.
but like you said, that pain and that struggle is what I like to see, like the diamond in the rough. The diamond doesn't come beautiful until it's cut many, many times and then polished. And all those cuts bring out the beautiful shine of the diamond. You can't do that without the cuts. So,
Mm.
because then you can't see the shine. So, think of that way. The cuts are what make you shine. So,
Yeah.
uh, I might have another
Yeah.
book there, Omar.
There you go. There's a title. Yes.
Uh-huh.
But it is absolutely true. Our experience of life is very subjective, and
Mhm.
a lot of people fall into this comparison. But you don't really know what the person has been through. You don't know their reality. You don't know, everything that's going on with them. You haven't got the full picture in order to compare. And so this is where I think, gratitude is very important. To be grateful for what you have, even to be grateful for whatever tragedies you've experienced, whatever
Mhm.
you've experienced, because you are where you are who you are because of them. Now, does this mean, because it's important to point this out now, does this mean that you can then use that as a crutch or an excuse to stop you from developing, growing, doing, moving forward? Absolutely not.
No.
You
No.
know,
'Cause
it's
you're
one thing
doing
to say,
I
go
said you're
on.
doing yourself a disservice if you do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it's one thing to say, yes, I've been through all this and this is who I am because of it. But I am now choosing to develop or work on myself so that I can better myself rather than saying, oh, well, this is who I am. This is what has happened. I'm just going to lay down and accept it. They're two very, very different attitudes, and the outcome of both is poles apart.
Right. Well, now let's just switch, kind of segue more so than switch gears, but if we're having troubles with confidence and healthy mindsets, what are some ways that we can work on that?
So, one of the best ways that I always recommend to people to do is kind of what I touched on there, is having or establishing a routine and pattern into your daily life. And that routine and pattern is in the morning, have a gratitude routine
Mhm.
where, when you wake up, just take time to sit down with yourself and be grateful for at least 3 to 5 things that you have within your life at the moment. You know,
Right.
so what are you grateful for? Because by doing this, you begin to shift your focus, remember, onto things that you have and that you want more of. So
Right.
we're making that small change. So what are you grateful for in your life? Whether it be your health, your partner, your spouse, your siblings, your kids, your wealth, your health, whatever it may be. So every morning, what are you grateful for? 3 to 5 things, and make this a daily thing. Now, the second part, I enjoy more, and not many people do this, but I think it's a big game changer, right? And this will help with confidence. Every night before you go to bed, write down 3 to 5 things that you would like to celebrate the day with. And what I mean by that is, say today I had, one less cup of coffee, you know, or today, for example, it could be anything. This is the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be something that's massive in order to celebrate.
Right.
It could be really small things. So today I did, I said thank you to 10 people, you know. Today I, went out of my way to help someone change a tire, whatever it may be. It's just, once again, conditioning your mind to start celebrating each and every day, because so many of us, we go through life just sort of on autopilot without really thinking and taking regard for how our days are flowing. And we miss out on opportunities to celebrate our mini successes.
Right.
Remember earlier I said, if you're moving in baby steps, you're still moving. So by celebrating each and every single day, 3 to 5 little things that you did in that day that you would like to celebrate and take note of, you
Mm-hmm.
will begin then to feel more confident in yourself because you are once again focusing on things that you are achieving and doing, which makes you feel better because confidence comes from doing. Okay.
Right.
So, for example, for your audience, it could be today I wrote 3 pages of gibberish. I'm going to celebrate that because I've been blocked for the past month, but today I'm going to celebrate that.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking, for writers, I wrote 500 words, whether it was 500 words of crap or not, it doesn't matter. You wrote 500 words. It's action moving because then tomorrow you can edit those 500 words and make them 750 words of beautiful prose. It just depends on
Yeah.
what you're doing, but yes.
And then you can
Celebrate.
celebrate that you edited. You can then
Yes.
celebrate that you edited the words, and it compounds, and
Right.
it then builds that confidence. Remember, this is where the baby steps comes in. You are then implementing just by simply reflecting on your day in hindsight, because things are always easier in hindsight, right? So you look
Hmm.
back on your day. Okay, what's happened today that I would like to celebrate? What have I achieved that I can celebrate? It kind of then gives you a push as well to say, okay, so I've written those 500 words today, for example. Tomorrow, I'm going to edit those 500 words and I'm going to make them 700 words and they're going to be beautiful. So it gives you a goal. And then after you achieve the goal, you can look back and celebrate it. And it has this compounding effect.
Well, and like you were saying too, it also then it gives your brain something to look forward to because your
Mhm.
brain is going to be thinking about those 500 words you wrote. And when you go back to edit them, you're going to look at them a little bit different and go, oh, I could change this here. I could add that there. That sentence is no, don't need that. And you make that progress. And then the next day, same thing happens. And if you keep doing those little baby steps, 500 words a day, and you want are you good with math? 50,000 words. It may take
Yeah.
you a while, but that's all right. Let's do this real math real quick. See, 50,000. Because a typical nonfiction book is around 50,000 words. And if you only wrote 500 words, that is 100 days. So within a little over 3 months, you could have your first draft written. So that's that momentum you're talking about. And some
Yep.
people never finish a book because they don't think about it like that. They don't think,
Yep.
hey, if I take the little baby step of 500 words, they think I've got to write this book. And it's like, well, the book starts with the little pieces. And the little pieces, 500 words a day or 1,000, whatever you can do.
Yep. And once again, it's that the way that we're kind of conditioned to look at things and think is we'll look back at our day and think, oh well, what have I achieved today? I haven't done anything. I wrote some, 500 words of rubbish, doesn't even count. Well, actually, no, let's change the perspective on that because at the end of the day, we are meaning creating machines. That's what we are as humans.
Mhm.
We give meaning to everything. Nothing has meaning until we process it and give it meaning. So
Right.
this is our opportunity at the end of every day to sit down and say, okay, what meaning am I choosing to give this day that will help me to move forward?
Right.
So three to five things that you want to celebrate at the end of the day. When you combine this gratitude in the morning and then the celebration in the evening with time, because as with anything, it takes time, the compounding effect that you will see will be phenomenal because soon it will start to be on autopilot. It will just
Right.
become an automatic thing that you do, and your mind will start searching for those things to celebrate
Mhm.
because you've shifted your focus.
Exactly. And you'll be looking for things that you're grateful for as well. I mean that I know that this is a practice I've done for a long time too, and every now and then, because if you've ever had a cold shower, you know to be thankful for hot water. You know? I last week, it took me about 15 minutes to realize that the hot and cold were reversed, and I couldn't get in that cold water. I kept trying. I'm like, it's too cold. And finally, I found that hot water, and I was like, woohoo! So the little things, like you said, to be grateful for. But when you start writing, when you start doing things, your mind can be trained or retrained to look for the information you need. So if you're writing about something, you're going to start noticing articles and memes and different things about your topic because they're going to start coming to your forefront. Your brain's going to be looking
Yes.
for them. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of it, that your brain is trainable, you know. And
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
Yes. Absolutely. And I'll tell your listeners one more thing. So this is a really good sort of hack, if you like, or technique, or for confidence, for boosting just general mood. So our minds cannot really differentiate between what is real and what is lived, right?
Right.
Or what is remembered.
Mhm.
So our minds can't differentiate between what we're actually experiencing and what we're remembering. And that is the reason that people who dwell on their past, people who dwell on negative events from their past, will be in a very low negative mood, because in their mind, it's almost as if they are constantly reliving it.
Mhm.
Now, in knowing this, we can then hijack this system and make it work in our favor. So, another exercise that, and I do this personally on a daily basis, first thing in the morning is I put myself into a strong, high, positive state. Now, the state is how you are feeling. You do this by simply closing your eyes and remembering a specific time you felt confident, happy, powerful, in love, any state which is quite strong and empowering to you.
Mhm.
You remember a specific time that you felt that feeling, right? You then, with your eyes closed, you go back and relive that time, relive that memory. But the key is to relive it as if you're living it from your own perspective. So you go back to the memory, float into your body, and relive that memory as if you're seeing it again for the very first time.
Mhm.
When you do this, you then put yourself in that state, in that way that you were feeling at that time.
Right.
You change your body posture, you change how you're breathing, everything, and it automatically shifts the state you're in. And it's very, very powerful for confidence.
Yes. Well, and one other thing I've learned recently from you know who Brenda Burchard is, right?
Mhm.
One thing I read in his book recently about thinking about your day like that, starting off your day, so you could do the positive thing, like you're talking about, thinking about the happy memory. But he also envisions himself going throughout his day. Okay, you know, like today, I knew that I had this interview with you, and I had other things that I needed to do, and I visualized myself getting those things done, and how I would look and how I'd feel doing those things. And it actually then gives your brain something to look forward to, work toward, and actually do. And I like that. And he said, you know, a lot of successful people do that from anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes in the morning to start their day. And I think that would be great segue from here's my happy place to okay, now let me think about these things that I'm going to do today and how am I going to respond to them and how am I going to feel and be in those moments. And I feel like then it's easier to be in the moment because you've
Mm.
already kind of been there, you know, in your mind. And so that's an excellent technique. I like that and the use of both of those. So tell us, what words of advice, encouragement do you have for writers who may be struggling with this, writing a book due to doubt, fear, and confidence? And that fear may be kind of what we talked about, some of what they've been through and what they want to write about can be tough to, yeah, and could be triggering to write about. What's some encouragement you have for them?
So, what I would say is, you know, we all want to help one another. And I'm guessing that the reason you want to write a book is because you want to add value and purpose to other people, you know? So your message needs to be heard. You are doing yourself and you're doing others a disservice by keeping it in, because actually your story, as difficult, as traumatic as it may be, might be the lifesaver that someone else needs. And so you keeping it in is actually a disservice to other people, because your story could potentially save someone's life. And I've seen it and I've heard it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the overwhelm, with the worry, with the doubt, as we said, just break it down into bite-sized chunks. Break it down day by day. As you said, Joyce, if you write down 500 words of noise today, you've still done something. Yesterday you had a blank sheet of paper. Today you got 500 words. Tomorrow you'll have 700 words, which sound and look a bit prettier. And just break it down day by day so that it's easier bite-sized chunks. Now, that is my suggestion. Also, do not necessarily feel that you are on your own.
Right.
There are people who will help you. There are people that you can reach out to and guide you. Because a lot of times I hear people say, I'm completely on my own. I'm afraid of facing these demons because I'm on my own. But the reality is, help is there. Reach out. If you're struggling to put words to paper, if you're struggling to get your story out, reach out.
Right.
So exactly, you have Joyce, reach out to her. This is what she does. If you're struggling to face your demons, there is help out there. Reach out to people who will listen to you, guide you, and help you to overcome whatever you are facing, because nothing is a life sentence.
No.
Right? And so, if anything, takeaways are, yes, get your story out because it can save someone's life. And you do not have to do it alone.
Right.
Do not struggle in silence, and reach out if you need the help.
Right.
And the final thing I would say is, remember, because I know that for a lot of people, this idea of feeling not enough or not good enough, know that I believe in you. Joyce believes in you. You are incredible. You have magic within you. You just need some guidance or some time to get it out. But do yourself a favor and others and let it out.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate that, Omar. That is excellent points, and so glad I had you on here today. I know that it's going to help so many people. This is a little bit different than what I normally talk about, but it's perfect because there's so many writers I know who have this problem, and so it's been wonderful to talk with you, and hopefully this will help many, many people around the world overcome their fears of writing. And this could help with them with their personal lives as well, because it's all intertwined. Your personal and your professional, they if your personal life's a mess, it's hard for your professional life to be in a great state, and so and vice versa. So it helps both of them to get better. So thank you for being here, and uh, we'll have all your contact info in the show notes. So if anybody wants to contact you and stay in touch with you, he shares some Facebook Lives, which are really good, and some other really good content on his Facebook page. So I would definitely tell you to follow Omar, because that's part of where he and I have had some interesting discussions about his topics, because they are good. They're very thought provoking. They're deep, but not like so like what do you call it? Deep that nobody understands what you're saying, kind of deep. They're very practical, but it's talking about more of the deep inner self versus the rah rah that you hear from a lot of other places. You can do it, and you can in 90 days you can have your book done. Woohoo! And that may be true on some levels, but hey, you've still got the work to do. So, well, thank you again, Omar, and we'll appreciate it.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Wonderful. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Right Hour. Are you wondering how to start your writing journey but feel overwhelmed or confused? After taking 4 years to write her first book, Joyce completely understands. She created the 4 steps to the right book to help you clarify your focus, create and organize your content, and complete your book. She shares tips on the writing process, and you can download the Writing Planner to track your progress and create weekly and monthly milestones to complete your book. You can sign up for the short email series at therightcoach.biz. That's TheRightCoach.biz. Or go to the link in the show notes for the podcasts. You can sign up on the side pop out on the computer, or on the phone, it's a blue bar at the bottom that pops up. You can also go to the bottom of the homepage to sign up for the 4 Steps to the Right Book. Don't let fear and overwhelm stop you from writing your book. It's time to write your book.
Auxbus,